Hey everyone, Clifton here with another video, another entry in my series called Behind the Edit. That's where I show you how I edited a photo. In fact, today's photo, I did a live stream for it on Twitch, and the entire live stream is 5 hours. So if you don't want to watch the live stream, if you want to see a condensed version, my overall thoughts, this is the video to watch. So let's go into our edit for today. The photo was from a free-for-all FFA competition called #BestFFA on Instagram. The one that I chose, which you can see here, the photographer Soto Boy and the model Sophia Tomlinson. I chose this because it sort of suited my feed the most. So what we're looking at now is the before photo. This is the photo that I exported from Lightroom into Photoshop. I did do some adjustments in Lightroom, some very subtle ones, reduced the highlights, reduced the whites down a little bit. I think I brought up the contrast a bit. I really wanted to bring out the details which are quite underexposed in the original photo, so I wanted to bring those up so that I could work with them a little bit more in Photoshop. So this is the result of what they look like. If we go through to Photoshop on the right hand side, you can see the 5 steps that I go through in my workflow. If we open up this group here under blemishes, you can see that there is a blemishes layer. In this step you use the healing brush tool, so it's J on your keyboard. Make sure that your sample area is current and below, and we would zoom in a little bit so that's Z on the keyboard. This particular photo had a lot of hair, stray hairs all over the model's face. Make the brush a little bit bigger. You would press and hold the option button or alt button, I think on a PC. You would sample an area like here, and then you'd paint that area to cover something up below it. It's very simple. Sample, paint. So let's say this here, I go sample this area, which looks similar to where the hair is, and then I'll just paint over it. So after you've finished with any distractions, blemishes, that's where you go into frequency separation. And you don't have to do frequency separation. If you prefer dodge and burn, you could do that instead. I do both. Within the version of frequency separation that I use, which is called PHP method, there are a few steps involved, and I have an action which does all of this work for me. It creates a low frequency layer and also a high frequency layer. I do recommend checking out a video from Unmesh of Pixelperfect. He does a much better job of explaining what the PHP method of frequency separation is. I'll have a link here so that you can have a look at that one, but I have combined a couple of his concepts and some things that I've learned from other places into this whole workflow, so there are some differences. So it will help if you have actually seen his video first. I do recommend that. From there, you can, if you want to, do local dodge and burn. Essentially you've got curve adjustment layers which darken, like here, darken the overall image and also brighten the overall image. Within the local dodge and burn process, that's where you're just trying to even out the light on a photo, make things more consistent, because lighting isn't always perfect, especially when you're on location. And this is where you can get the lighting conditions to be neutral. So that's where you use local dodge and burn, and in this case I have used it. I've also done global dodge and burn, and that's where you're being creative with the light, adding contour and bringing out the highlights in certain areas. And what I've also done is, for some of these, I changed the blending mode to luminosity. I wanted to see what the effect is, and then I adjusted the opacity as well, just so that I could darken certain parts, brighten others. Like you can see here with her lips, so the opacity is at 71%, whereas the overall burn for everything else is 66%. And then you can do the same thing with eyes. Eyes are 17%, so I don't want them to be too bright, ghostly. And then with the dodge, that's at 70%. So that was step 3, dodge and burn, and then we got colouring, which is my step 4. So that's where I almost finished. And as you can see there's a big difference between before colouring and after colouring. I got the idea for the colours from another Instagrammer called Danny.portraits. I think that's his Instagram handle. And what he uses a color wheel, which is right here on my menu, and within that you can find complementary colors and also all these different color combinations that could work for your photo. And I actually borrowed one of his, and I know he has lots of different palettes that he works with. So it's like here, so Danny Portraits theme. So this is one of his color palettes that he used for a photo. He probably uses, I think he uses it quite a lot. But I was thinking, okay, so I could use some of these colors. So skin tone similar to this pink color, so it was already sort of like that. And then this orange, I could make those laser orange because they're very similar to this orange here. And then this blue, I didn't really know what I could do with this one, so I thought, maybe not. And I was thinking, okay, these trees at the back, it could either be this one or her top could be one of these colors. So that's where I experimented a little bit with which one of these colors could be what, but I knew that this yellow tree in the background, that was going to be our orange tree. Now I did struggle a little bit at first because I was thinking, wait a minute, this is clearly a winter photo and orange leaves are very autumny. They don't really go together, but I thought, why not? Let's just see, let's give it a go and see if anyone notices. No one's really noticed, I think, or said anything about it. I've got some nice comments on the finished photo. But yeah, part of me was thinking, oh wait, this doesn't make sense. But I just liked the look of it, you know. And the way I did this, and what I always do, is I create two groups. I tried my first technique, which is to select the background, even though it's got a padlock on it, and then go up to the top here. I go to select and subject. And it almost always works with a fairly simple photo. When you've got things in front of them and like leaves and things sort of in between the model and the background, that confuses it. But if it's fairly straightforward like this, then that almost always works. So I always try that first. And then what I would do is I would create a new group within this coloring layer and then create a mask. And it does, I think it does this one first. So I just deselect, Command D to deselect the selection, and it creates this. From there I'd create another group, and then I will just press and hold, off the top of my head I think it's Option, press and hold Option, drag the mask over to the background layer and then invert the mask. I had a rough idea of what tools I'd be using. Started with a combination of them, but went with these, and the first one was a color balance adjustment layer. And worked a little bit with the midtones, so that's where your skin tone generally is. And I'll just check, see, we did a little bit in the shadows, a little bit in the highlights. So let's just turn all these others off so you can see what we did. See, so it's very subtle effect. The next one is a bit more obvious. So this is where you can see I've got two masks there for the top. And the second one here, top extra cyan, that's just a duplicate of this other one. So that's where we've made it a little more greener to match one of these colors. And I'll just go to here. And I had a feeling the color was in blue, that top color, and then I just really pushed the values, modify the colors there. And I don't think there was anything in the others. Oh yeah, so I really pushed the signs as well. So it was really the top that I was focusing on, as you can tell by the masks. So let's go to the next one. Bam. So that just made it even more cyan, as per the layer name there. Extra cyan. And then we've got this one here, which is a solid color layer. And I made it the same color as Ellipse. So I sampled the color from there. And then I added an inverted mask so that I could then paint in a color, a little bit like with the dodge and burn. I wanted a way where I could just add and remove it without using the eraser tool, and I thought, let's do it this way. So that's how I did the rosy cheeks there on her. So that was it for the subject. And then on the background we have a selective color layer, and that is with the yellow tree. So I should probably rename that to yellow tree. let's do that now. So yellow tree, orange tree, yellow tree. Okay, and then I did want to bring down the vibrance a little bit, I think, or the saturation, yeah, because it was a little too strong. So it's only very subtle. And you can see there I've sort of made adjustments to the blending and the fill. And then for the far off tree, so that was more of a green color, a dull green. I figured I'd make that, I think this color here, more like that one. And I did that through the color balance tool and just playing with these. So I do find I have to switch and use different tools because not all of them work the way I want to. And I think that's a part of this whole process, or learning to be a retoucher, is just trying the different tools, learning the strengths and weaknesses of each one, so that you can just go switch. I know some people who can work with just the curves adjustment layer, but I'm finding that I do have to use, some are better at things than others, in my case anyway. And then I do have the curves adjustment layer there. What did I want to do? I bring the overall brightness down for that far off tree, because I think when I made the changes, it was a little too bright. I needed to darken it a little bit. So maybe, yeah, I think it is this one that I wanted for that back tree there. So that's our coloring, and then from there we go to step 5 of my workflow, and that's just the final edit. And this is what I used to do in Lightroom. I would, from this point, I would save everything, take it back into Lightroom, and then do my final edits. But now what I do is I try and do everything in Photoshop and then just export the photo in Lightroom. And the way we do that is with my final action here. I'll just remove that one. So here's my actions: blemishes, frequency separation, dodge and burn. The fourth one, which is coloring, that's really just a group layer, and a lot of it is all very manual and different every time, so I don't have a step 4. The final edit, this is where I create a merge. What is the name? A stamp visible layer. Okay, so essentially it merges everything into a single layer. Everything that's visible below it merges it into a single layer. From there I convert it into a smart object that I can then apply filters to and make changes to them. And one of those, as you can see here in our panel, is Camera Raw filter, which is essentially Lightroom. So if we bring that up, this brings up Camera Raw, and I have just installed updates for all the software, so all the main ones that I use, Lightroom, Photoshop, both versions of all those. I'll just say get started. Okay. It actually looks a lot nicer. It looks more like Lightroom now. It looked really rough before, but yeah, it looks really nice. Like the aesthetic, changes they've made. They should just make it look more like Lightroom, so it'd just be easier for us Lightroom people. I did start with Lightroom at first. Here are some of the basic changes that I did. Bring the vibrance up a little bit. Curves I don't really touch. Details sharpened a little bit. Okay, and once I've done these, that's where I will save it and then bring it back into Lightroom, export it. I think that's my whole workflow. Yeah, okay, so I think that's everything for today's video. I hope you found it useful, hope you found it entertaining in some way. Let me know if you'd like to see more videos like this one. I know this is a lot shorter than the 5-hour edit. I recommend check out my Twitch, there'll be links in the video. Go check out my Instagram as well.